All right, I'm Michael here with Abdul again. We're back running your SaaS business. That's what we're talking about, what we've been talking about, and what we've been trying to accomplish a little bit. You can see the part of running the SaaS business is actually setting up the SaaS business of getting the computers and getting people and setting up the office. And Abdul looks like he's running a chop shop for a bunch of computers back there, but it's obviously getting the stuff together for a bunch of people that we've hired. How many have we hired now? I
We
think
have hired, we have finalized, I think, 15 people, and we still have a few more to go for this first
wow.
batch.
Yep. So we have 15 people starting to help get our SaaS business up and running, right? Obviously, we should talk about funding at some point, I guess.
Yeah.
But getting this team, I'm really excited. We're now like actually starting to chat on what's up, all of us together, talking about seeing their interactions and really seeing the roles that they're going to play and how they're all going to plug together. It's actually really been an exciting time, and maybe we'll get into a little more of that. But today, what we're going to talk about is what's wrong with your managed WordPress hosting providers, right? So we're going to go into some details of what's wrong with some of these people out here that say they do truly managed hosting, and the type of support they provide, the pricing, and some of the constraints that you run up against. So
Yep.
let's first talk a little bit about lack of support, right? So Abdul, I'll have you jump in here because I think you've seen it almost with one of our preferred partners as well as
Yes.
they've grown, right?
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about your experience of like at Cloudways or at other places that you feel like lack of support and how that affects like retention and those types of things.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. So, yeah, I think managed WordPress hosting definitely is a overused term, I would believe, because nowadays, if you look at almost any other hosting company, they say they are managed, especially for WordPress, they are like managed WordPress hosting. Even like companies like Bluehost and like these companies that are like legacy providers have now started using these terms for their newer products, which are nothing, just like repackaged, kind of the same product, just repackaged. So I do believe there's a lot of overuse or abuse of this word happening, and that's one reason why we kind of decided to jump into this niche, because we saw that abuse happening, this overuse happening. Because when, for me, even though I'm technical, like if I wasn't technical, if I think about it, if I'm running a WordPress website and someone tells me they are managed hosting provider, they managed WordPress hosting provider, and I go to them, and I pay a premium for them, definitely. Like I can get my website hosted for pretty cheap if it's a small website, but then I pay a premium. Like let's say if it's Kinsta, WP Engine, Flywheel, whichever provider you go to, even Bluehost. Like Bluehost is, and these companies are famous for few dollar hosting plans, like $20 a year,
Yeah.
$40 a year.
Yep.
But even they have their managed hosting product at like $20 a month, $15 a month. So if I'm paying a premium, I would expect some kind of more services as well. So that's where the lack of support part comes in, because I would assume that it's much more supported. Yes, definitely like Kinsta, Flywheel, WP. I'm not sure about WP Engine, but Flywheel, Kinsta, Cloudways even, they do have much better support when you compare it with those shared hosting providers. But they still like kind of, when they talk about managed, what they really mean is just, oh, it's a platform that we've optimized for WordPress, and we'll keep your plugins updated automatically. We won't look at them if it break your website. They'll get automatically updated. We'll manage kind of the security part of it a little bit, but yeah, that's what we call
Some of
managed.
it. And I think the other thing is we talk about just talk about support just in general in our industry. We actually talked about this yesterday about the heroic support from Liquid Web, right? Like how we
We
used
remember
to
those
like
days.
I started,
Yeah, we remember
yeah,
those days.
I started with them at that and had 3 or 4 servers there, and we still have one server there just because it's hard to sometimes move sites away. But we saw their support no longer is heroic
Yeah.
anymore, right? Like it's just become like everyone else.
Yep, like a
That's
normal
like,
side of like a standard hosting support that you get, right? Like, because hosting has a very kind of, if you talk to anyone who has been in the industry for a few years, like has an online business or runs a website, everyone has hosting support stories, right? Like you won't find a guy who has been hosting a website for 5 years not have some of his stories. Especially like some providers are very famous for that, like GoDaddy, HostGator, these guys are very famous for that. But everyone has their kind of stories, because the problem starts coming in because from hosting companies, there's one word that kind of is very common, like one sentence. Oh, talk to your developer, kind of a thing, right? Like I do remember that we
Do
did.
not say that. We don't
Yeah,
say those words on this show.
yeah.
We don't say that here.
No, I remember that because one of our kind of our agency partners that we have that we bought on a few months ago. I remember their kind of the developer that there is there, Joseph and Alan. They're like, when we were talking to them and we were moving sites and they had some problems and I was kind of working with them with a support team to get those resolved. It was like, finally I found a hosting company that doesn't tell me it's your problem, right? That's the thing, right? That's the kind of support people expect when you tell them that it's managed, right? There would be a lot of scenarios where I like, from our side, from support, we are not the right people to fix it because it is definitely a code problem. But
Yes.
the idea there is
But I think when we get there, we actually try to point people in the right
Yes.
direction too.
Yes.
We actually point them, hey, this is the script, this is what's going on, this is what you need to, who you need to
Yes.
talk to about it.
Yeah.
Not, oh, it's not our problem. Go ahead and good luck with trying to figure it out.
Yes. And in many cases, we even go beyond that. We tell them, oh, you have a developer, connect them with us. So there have been many instances when I've directly communicated with their developers, like kind of helping them navigate the scenario, right? Because they might need something done on the server, or we need something specifically done from them. So not just telling them, oh, it's your problem, figure it out. We say, okay, connect. This is an email, because we have a support email address. Get your developer to email us. We'll help them kind of navigate this issue, get to the bottom of this, right? So I think that's what people expect when you talk to them about, oh, it's a managed solution. Because what else is managed then? If you when I come to a managed hosting company and they tell me, oh, this is not a problem, and I ask them what is managed, oh, we are managing the server. That even HostGator is doing. Then, like, what's the difference in that? Like, you have to manage the server. Like, who else will manage the server, right? If you don't manage it, if you're a hosting provider. So I think it's just, for me, a lot of it is just repackaged kind of material. It's not like, that's why I think we do use a term called truly managed, just to kind of stand out from it, because unfortunately we shouldn't have to. Like, when we tell people it's managed, people should understand, but just so we can explain that our services are much better than what you find in the managed tier, we call ourselves kind of truly managed.
And I think like a very simple thing is like email on your website being sent out to your customers or whatever. We get that a lot. You know how many times I heard, hey, you got to talk to your developer. It's getting off our server, not our problem, right?
Yep.
And like we would take our time to then, no, it has to, oh, we see the delivery log's been delivered. Can you check your spam? Oh, it's not there. Oh, hey, try this, do this. Like we're actually talking to the customer at some points, or talking obviously with the agency owner as well to fix those problems, instead of, sorry, it must be a plugin issue, go talk to the plugin developer, right? And as an agency owner, like we've talked about this the other day, I'm not that technical. I have technical skills, but I don't know all SMTP and the deliverability and all the issues with DKIM and SPF and all that stuff, right? And I have to make sure it's all set up properly, which is a server side stuff, which how many times did I hear go talk to your developer when it was really a server issue of not having the correct record set up? But I mean, I think we could talk about lack of support all day long, and we can get pretty passionate about it because it's something I think is what separates people in this industry of what they're doing and what can be done.
And so, just one thing there, where you mentioned a preferred provider, right? One of the reasons we went with them when there were so many other providers was that their support was really good. Like it was a really good support. They had chat support really well, going very well, and now they have kind of decided. I understand sometimes you have to take decisions which are like, oh, you're getting a lot of, because they ran a limited deal, lifetime deal, just I think earlier this month. They got a lot of customers. They're kind of growing very fast as well. So sometimes you need to make decisions to kind of limit the kind, because yes, myself, I was very trigger happy with their support. Like I would kind of message them just to talk to them and ask about things, right? But the thing is, okay, you tell me, okay, we're not doing support for non-critical issues. Makes sense that you're at least there for critical issues. Chat is there if there's any critical issue. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with creating a ticket for non-critical issues. But that doesn't, now that you're kind of moving me from chat support, where I'm used to like 1 minute responses and like 5 minute resolutions, and now you're taking 4 hours to respond to a ticket. that's where the problem starts coming in, right? That okay, I don't have a
Yes.
problem creating a ticket, right? But then don't make me wait 4 hours or like 24 hours for resolution.
Yeah, and that's how long it took us to resolve that last problem with that service provider.
Yes.
I see the tickets come in, and I saw that. So I think it's a shame that that's happening. Now, are we going to move away? No, for a very of other reasons that we've talked about, like how we felt like we're part of the
Yeah.
platform now, how we feel like we've helped build it, and those types of things. But it's disappointing, and I don't want my first early adopters to feel that. And I'm sure it's going to change, and it's going to hurt
Mhm.
my heart when it happens. But that's gonna be the last straw
Yeah.
between Abdul and I as we battle it out, because at some point I don't know if we'll be able to provide the level of support we have right now, but we have to try to do the
So
best we
the thing
can
is that
forever, for as
yeah,
long as we can.
I think
So
in my experience with talking to customers and support, they don't mind kind of making tickets. They don't mind kind of waiting a little bit. The problem starts coming in when you don't understand the problem, right? When there's a problem that your support guy doesn't understand, that's where customer starts getting frustrated, right? Oh, I'm telling you this is a problem,
yeah.
and knowledge of support people, that's also like making sure, like for us we have started, because even now that we haven't built the platform, like some of the people that we have hired are for support. We haven't built the platform, but why are we hiring support people? Because we want them trained from day one. Within, as the platform is being built, we want our initial team of support agents to be there from day one, so they can see how this product is kind of conceived, how it gets built, so they
Yeah,
know the inner workings, and we have ample
it'll
time
be
to kind of.
interesting. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it's a good move or not. I think it is, right? I think you do
Yep.
too,
Yep.
and I think you've seen what happens when they're not. But it'll be interesting. We'll learn from that. We'll be able to come back in 6 months from now and say,
Yep.
"Wow, that we wish we would have hired 4 more people,"
Yes.
right, or whatever, right? Or nope, we didn't really need them because we didn't really have any support tickets to
Yep.
really address or anything. So
Yeah, but the idea is for us is to kind of train them. That's why we're creating the academy as well. We're creating,
yeah,
okay, we have to have a lot of a good training path for these people, so they can kind of keep improving their skills. And that also comes from a little bit of my experience at my previous company, because that's where what I felt there, that at a certain point we weren't hiring a lot of support agents, but we were growing very fast. We were getting 2,000, 1,500, 2,000 new customers every month, but we're not adding support people. So what started happening is when everything blew up and we wanted to hire more people, we didn't understand at that time that every new support guy that comes in takes a couple of months, especially if it's a running platform and it's a complicated stuff. He takes a couple of months to become production ready. Ready enough that he can start responding to tickets, because first he has to learn the platform, you have to train him to a certain level, you have to bring him up to speed for what kind of because every company has a support, like a support psyche, I would say, for customers, right?
yeah,
Because some companies have very tech, like myself, me, like when I'm working with a company, like let's say a managed cloud hosting company, I'm not a high support kind of touch person, because I'm technical. I kind of figure my thing. I like to figure things out on my own. So, but some companies, some people, we also have a few of those customers. Like anything, they don't want to look at anything. They want us to look at it. So when you reach to a point of like 10, 20,000 customers, you start to getting that support psyche, like what type of customers you have, right? And what type of level they are
yeah.
at, and what type of level your support agents need to be. So the problem then came in that we didn't realize that it would take us to bring a new guy in and to bring him to that level 3 months. So everything kind of just blew up at that time, and it was very difficult 6 months for us. But now what happened there is like they're hiring more people, they're benching people. So we already always have like 6, 8 people in training. So by the time they get trained, the requirement is ready for
Hmm.
them. I think support is I
Yeah,
think a topic in itself for some other videos. But yeah,
yeah. I
like you
think I
said,
wrote that
some
down.
yeah,
Yeah, that and training, right? I
yep,
mean, that's something that I never did in my agency when we first started, was have any type of training at all, right? Like not now we have training for people right when they come in. We have courses they need to take in regards to even before they start talking to customers. You and I are training whatever 2 or 3 people right now, and I'm commenting to you all the time, "Hey, we got to fix this. Hey, we got to look at this. This doesn't look right." That type of stuff. So yes, support and training is a whole nother section all by
yep.
itself. So we'll remember that. I'm writing it down so we can talk about it, because it's how we're going to separate ourselves in our industry. Honestly, is the support. And if you, not to brag, but if you go to the wphelp.com and look at some of the testimonials, sure, they're talking about the speed, but almost every one of them talks about the support as well. And the speed is our foot in the door, kind of, hey, you really want, because you could tell people you're going to provide them great support and they don't believe you, right? We get the speed, and then every one of them is like, it's not just the speed, it's the support that they're providing as well. So I think it's both of it for people that they're seeing right now. But like I said, we will stop with support right now. We're going to move on to the next thing. So the other thing you run into with what's wrong with our managed WordPress hosting providers is resources. So a lot of times you run into constraints, limitations inside of your hosting provider's resources. So why don't you talk a little bit what you see and kind of how or just talk about the industry and kind of what it looks like there.
Okay, so definitely, like when it comes to resources, like server panels like GridPane, Cloudways, RunCloud, they are better off in this because they are more of server panels. So you're like kind of getting your own server, so you already know the specs. So you already need to know like how much that server can sustain if it's like load or traffic or anything. So they're not kind of restricting you for anything. You're buying your own server. They're just installing their stack on it, so you can manage it easily. So that's what like most of these server panels do. But when you come to more of the managed provider side, where it's like managed application, like providers like Kinsta, Flywheel, WP Engine, and a lot of others that have come up, they're more okay. You're not getting the server. You don't even know what the server is, what the configuration is. Most of them just tell you that it's Google Cloud, but you don't know it actually like what it is and how it's programmed or how it's kind of configured. But the idea is that you get an application, you get a WordPress install. Now that WordPress install can be in a shared environment or can be in a container or can be in an instance of its own, whatever your provider is following. But then to make it work, they have resource restrictions. Like some of resource restriction makes sense, like you have visits. Some providers limit you by visits, that you can have one round plan 20,000 visits a month. Some have, okay, there are some providers that don't limit the visitors as such, like they give you an idea. Now that's where just like kind of me ranting about it here, but that's one thing that I have seen. Like the good thing with Kinsta is they tell you, okay, this plan you get 20,000 visitors. Now then there's some other companies that tell you, oh, it's 25,000 visitors, but then they have an icon, oh, we don't restrict visitors. So what does it mean? So like be upfront, right? Like Kinsta is telling you it's 20,000 visitors, this is what you get. Okay, now I understand it, that this is what I get. Now you're telling me it's 25,000 visitors, but we don't restrict it. Why are you telling me that? Kind of like, oh. So they say, oh, the resources that we are giving you kind of are there to sustain you till that. So just making it more confusing. Another point of what we discussed on the a couple of days ago for one provider's pricing that we were discussing, just making it more confusing kind of a thing. So, but the idea is to have restrictions. Now, Kinsta definitely is very upfront on the visitors, but they have a very known kind of a problem with PHP workers, that they restrict you. Like the PHP workers are very restrictive. So if you
I'll say this, as somebody that's technical like you know that's the problem. Somebody like me that's not as technical, obviously I've heard about PHP workers and how they work, but I wouldn't know that that's what I got to go and address if something's happening with my website, right?
Yep.
So I mean, I think it's somewhat frustrating with some of those things. That why is my site loading slow? I have enough whatever speed, RAM, bandwidth, whatever you. Oh no, it's the PHP workers. Okay, what? Like,
yeah,
a lot of agency owners don't know that,
right? Like when if you as an agency owner got a site plan for $30 a month, which said you can have 20,000 visitors. Now you'll be like, oh, I've just had 5,000 and the website is crashing. And then you come, oh, you have only 2 PHP workers. So you say now. Like I remember, like many people that we talk to about this, they don't even know what PHP workers are, right?
Exactly,
right?
You don't.
So how they're being controlled, things like that. Okay, even in PHP controls, are they on demand or are they static? There are a lot of other things that you can do in PHP workers as well. But the idea is like, oh, if I'm getting 20,000 visits, why do I have another restriction of so? The point being, they have a point that okay, it can be like 20,000 visits, but if your website is very badly coded, it will take up a lot of resources to just serve those 20,000 visits. Okay, that has a point. We have also seen that with some of our clients, that some of them just have really badly coded websites that just take up a lot of resources, right? That's there. But I think that's another kind of a technicality that providers should take on themselves, kind of solving it in a simpler way of how they can make it more simple for customers to understand. This is something that we'll also try to do. We might succeed, we might not succeed in this kind of simplification of resources, but the idea is to not have customers having to like not being able to understand, okay, am I getting 20,000 visits? Oh, okay, this website can get 20,000 visits, but for the same plan, this website can get 5,000 visits. So that's what starts coming in. Like people are saying, okay, Insta's basic plan is for $30, but you, the real problem becomes in PHP workers because it has just two PHP workers. So you
Yep.
essentially cannot run an e-commerce website on it. If your website is
Yep.
WooCommerce and you have a little bit of traffic, if you get to 20, if you have a WooCommerce website, you get 20,000 visitors a month, you cannot run on two PHP workers unless
Yep.
it's like hugely cached, right? And the problem with
Yep.
WooCommerce is that you cannot cache like cart
Cache
pages.
it.
The main pages that take up the most resources, cart, checkout, you can't cache them. So that's where some of these providers become a little tricky, and that's where like constraints on resources starts like annoying people as well, because if you're upfront on that, okay, you have this plan, it has 20,000 visits. Now that's the only restriction you have. You don't have any other restrictions, right? Okay, bandwidth is there. You can use CDN bandwidth to a limited extent, because if someone is hosting videos, 20,000 visits on a 1 gig video becomes too much, right? You have those restrictions there, but they should be in such a kind of I would say like a soft limit kind of a thing, right? Like, okay, not very restrictive. So these limits shouldn't be very restrictive that even your core product cannot be served in that. I think that's what starts coming in. Then the problem starts coming. Another good thing with Kinsta is that they are transparent, so at least you know that it's two PHP workers. There's so many providers where you don't even know. You just get an odd email middle of the night. Oh,
That's true. I agree. I agree. But like I said, to the non-techie, which I feel like I am a technical agency owner. I think you would agree based on
Yep.
the landscape of the agency owners we've talked to, right? I know more about it, but I still, that's not the first thing I would have thought of as the issue, right? And that's what is, I think, frustrating with these constraints that we've
Yep.
seen
But
with other.
with Kinsta, the thing is that they've at least been transparent that, okay, this is the
True.
restriction you have.
True.
There's so many other providers, managed providers or non, that you'll just get an email out of the blue. Your site is taking up too much resources. Please upgrade, or we are suspending it. Whatever they do, right?
Yeah, and you're like, what? What is it doing?
Yeah, it's like, so
Yeah.
what's happened? So at least with Kinsta, they're transparent of whatever the restrictions are. Many other providers are not. You don't even know where their limits are, whatever the limits are, right? So at least I think even if you have restrictions, you should think of making them a little more flexible, but then also be transparent. Like with the good thing that is about Kinsta, at least they're transparent about it. You know exactly what you're getting.
Exactly. Yeah. Cool. Two more topics. We're already like 30 minutes in.
Yeah, 20,
So
22 minutes in.
22. Okay. My unofficial timer as I'm looking at it. So high pricing, right?
Yeah.
So what's wrong with managed WordPress hosting providers? Let's talk about pricing, because, I think for us, we are, as a single site, one of the higher priced solutions. But as we roll out this platform, I think our pricing is going to get flipped a little bit, and we won't be in that situation. But I do think right now it's something to talk about, and so let's talk a little bit about that.
I think, again, for this, I think when it comes to pricing, like you said, like we are kind of the more higher priced option right now, because we do offer a lot of more services. So that's like you're not getting the same, like if someone compares us to any other managed hosting provider, apple to apples, we're not apples to apples, because we are on a focus on optimization and all that side. So we do also incur a lot of additional costs to serve those things to our customers, right? So our pricing reflects that, and definitely, like you said, like we have already started discussing the pricing internally for our new product, and we do, like, both of us have this sort of a mindset. We agree on, in principle, on the idea that the pricing will be more at par with the current providers, right? The idea is more to have more add-ons, more flexibility to people. So that's where I have the flexibility part, and that's what the pricing is, that it shouldn't be very expensive to just host a website on a managed hosting provider, right? Yes, additional services can be as add-ons. Like if you have additional services like optimization, stuff like that, they can be add-ons. I think this is more of me being more of a marketing background kind of a person, also kind of pushing that part of me in, because for me it's like, oh, the core product is simple, so people can start using it. You start charging on, like, cars as well. Like if you could buy any car, the basic version, which has nothing, it's so cheap. But
Yep.
then once you get it, you say, okay,
You want air conditioning?
Yeah.
That's going to cost more.
Yeah.
You want windows? Whatever. Yeah.
You don't want to be like that, like kind of just for this. But the idea is the same, right? That you get the core product cheaper, right? Like even with PlayStations, things like that, they give you the core product cheap, and then then you have add-ons, right? So you can buy add-ons, you cannot buy add-ons. It depends on you, but you get the core product cheap because I think for me personally, WordPress is like something I really love. Like it's something that I've worked with for so long. It's more of I want to like have this kind of an because I do find a lot of people not being able to experience managed hosting providers and just sticking to very bad hosting providers just because of the price differences that are there, right? So I think there's so many changes that have happened in the last couple of years that all this technology, all this hardware infrastructure has become so much more affordable. And I don't see those savings being passed on completely to customers, right? Now, that is something that I feel because for us, like if we would be building a cloud solution 6 years ago, it would have been much more expensive, right, to build that solution out.
Yeah.
Now with providers like Google, providers like AWS, and even providers like DigitalOcean, Vulture, it has become much more affordable. So the idea is, okay, if it's more affordable for you, it should be more affordable for customers as well, right? So I think that's the main idea. So I do think that's where these server panels have been becoming so popular, like Cloudways. Cloudways is not like because it kind of charges you almost double for every server that you get, but GridPay run cloud. The good thing with them is you pay a single price, have as many servers as you can, right? So they are becoming popular because for someone on who has like 20-30 websites and a small agency, 20-30 websites, just going on managed hosting providers is it becomes too expensive. So say, okay, we go on GridPane, we go on somewhere like RunCloud, we get a couple of servers, we pay them whatever price they are, and just run all our sites on the just manage. You don't get the same managed service from a server provider because from a kind of server control panel side, they're not that kind of optimized for WordPress kind of support, but they still are there. They still call themselves managed WordPress. But the idea is just to have that kind of. So I think there's no one in the middle right now. You have these server panels which are cheap, but you have to do a lot of sysadmin work yourself, or you have these app op providers. But now I think they're also realizing it because if you start looking at the bulk plans of Kinsta or WP Engine or Flywheel, they have started becoming more affordable for bigger agencies.
Yeah, they have. I mean, I remember when I first started, Kinsta was like $400 or something like that. Like really a high priced item before I started really diving in. So I think just the other thing is I'd say is the reason our pricing is changing is because right now you get everything, right? You whether you want it or not, you get the great hosting, heroic hosting, right? I don't think we can say that, but I just did. And then you get the hyper optimized, WordPress websites. You get all the core theme updates. You get all that stuff. That's all included right now and in that price. And some people might not want that. And that's kind of what we're doing. So we're going to shift the other way and say, hey, for a basic server, here you go. It's still faster than most people's out there. That's what we're going to say. And then if you want extreme optimization speeds, whatever. Yep. Then now you'll get, you can buy an add-on to it, which is, just a way to be a little more, I guess, cost focused for their customers, right? That's kind of how we've positioned it.
Because
so, the last thing, go ahead.
Just one thing, like many agencies that we've kind of talking to or working with, they do have clients like, oh, we want them to be on this hyper kind of solution, but we don't want all of our clients to be on this solution, right? So giving them the flexibility, okay, we just want to host a few sites. Like I have a small blog, I just want to host it, but I want to host it cheaply. But I have other websites which have like more needs because we do have a few add-ons that we've planned out. So you can pick and choose which websites get what instead of like every website getting everything.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Cool. Last thing, what's wrong with managed WordPress hosting providers? Well, they're not really managed, right? So we've talked a little bit about this in I think almost probably every video because I think it kind of irks both of us, right? We're both like, how can you say you're managed WordPress hosting when you don't even really manage anything? I mean, like you've said, I think you said it today was like the first time that I've really hit me home is people just, oh, let me repackage what we've been selling all along, and now it's managed WordPress hosting, right? And it's not managed. Like they're not. There are not a lot of people that update core themes and plugins. That's why Blog Vault and Managed WP exist, right? Like, even though they're saying they do this, then they don't, right? And same with the core. Like, they might update the core or the theme, but not all things at all times. But sometimes there are people out there that do that. But then there's the whole idea around, you got to go talk to your developer, and I think that's where we really separate ourselves. So why don't you kind of jump into that a little bit?
No,
Why
I
it's
think
not really managed?
I think we touched on it at the start of this video as well when we start talking about support, because that's the thing, right? I believe that the word managed has been kind of abused or overused, kind of. I think it's been exploited because everyone, few years back, it was shared hosting. Then managed hosting came in, and everyone's like, okay, managed hosting is really good. Like, you're getting all these services and all these things you don't have to worry about. But then what happened is everyone, oh, we are also managed, we are also managed. Everyone became managed. Suddenly, this whole industry is managed WordPress, right? So nothing changed in real. Like, okay, server management, like making sure the server is secure, making sure the server is working. Like, there's this thing, right? Like, oh, our managed support, we are covering the platform. It's your platform. You have to cover that, right? It's not the customer's job to cover the platform. Or we are taking care of the server. Who else will? Kind of, right? Who else will take care of that? But the thing is, for me as a customer, or whoever the customer is, their main problem is their website. Like, what are you doing when you say managed from my website? Not what you're doing for the server, not what you're doing for the platform, nothing like that. What are you doing for my website? Oh, we are doing theme updates. Now, all these businesses like that just do theme updates will be going out of business because WordPress is kind of building it in, right? So then what will happen then, like, where do these managed providers go then? Because that's the kind of only WordPress only service that they give. So the idea is to give, like, I would believe, okay, if that's why one of our add-ons that we're thinking of is like truly managed, like most of edits and stuff like that as well. We might do it, we might not do it, but the idea is to have, because to give people one place, right, one ecosystem where they can come in. Their websites are also hosted. They need anything changed, they need anything added, it's there. You might have partnerships like with companies like different providers where they can also integrate into the ecosystem, right? Where they can provide their own support, they can provide their own stuff. So that's where we are thinking. But that's where it becomes truly managed, right? Where it's an ecosystem, because WordPress cannot run alone. If you're running WordPress, you're running page builders, most probably you're running a lot of plugins. So there is a huge ecosystem that has to be supported, and providers aren't bringing that ecosystem together, right? They're like, okay, we are just hosting. Now, a big problem, like when I was talking to us kind of the people in our team that I'm talking, okay, about support and everything, the good thing is that the people that we've hired are also kind of very support focused. They understand customers, they understand customers problems. So that's also a good thing for our customers as well as us, that we have people of similar kind of thinking on the team. Because the first thing, one of our guys, like, who will be leading the DevOps side, I talked to him, Hassan, and he's like, okay, what are you about support? What do you think? He said the biggest problem right now with customers is that, and not many people are doing that, is that you're using page builders. Everyone kind of Elementor, Beaver Builder, Brizy, whichever they're using. So they need support for that, because sometimes it doesn't run properly on Stack. It's not complete. They build a page, it's not running properly, it's not showing properly. We should have that. I like that. I think this is a good idea. We should have people in a team who are experienced with certain page builders. So we'll train people on all the famous plugins. So we are giving kind of support for those plugins as well. Like, if someone is having on our customers end, if they're having problem configuring Elementor, or configuring rank math or Yoast, or it's not running properly, we won't say talk to Elementor support, right?
Yeah.
We say, okay, we have this guy in our team who does that. Let me ask him to look at it for you. So that's the kind of, that's where when I start, that's when I say that's managed. That's what I mean. Like, when I think you're also very similar on that. I think if you want to kind of add a few points on this.
No, I think, this is where I feel like separates the men from the boys, so to speak, right? Is I don't know how many hosting providers I've heard go talk to your developer, and I just got so sick of it, right? And that's what's caused me. And I think somewhat you and I will have to figure it out as we go through it, of what's the threshold to stop supporting, right? And sometimes we're both like, hey, what do you think of this ticket? And I'm like, nope, because I think I overcompensate, and I think you're more realistic of what our support needs to be. And I'm like, nope, let's just do one more thing for him. Nope, let's try to fix it. and see if we can get it addressed, right? And that's just because I think that's the only thing that really separates people at the end of the day in regards to support. Now our speeds are faster, so I can say that as well now. But when I was prior to you being here, the crazy optimizer, right? There wasn't much difference, right? I mean, it was very small how much faster websites were loading versus somebody else, right? So now we have that solution, which like I've said is something that gets us in the door, but the support is what's keeping people here. And is what causing people to grow, right? We get the speeds with people in the door, but with support, it's why they stay. So I think that's what I'd kind of say about that. So, wow,
So
over 30
videos,
minutes.
Yeah, one of our longer
Yeah,
videos.
yeah.
I think it was
It's
was a very kind of a personal topic for both of us when it comes to support and all that. I think that's why. I think because we all, like I said, we all have experiences, like because we've been like hosting websites for so long. We have all like support is, I think, you just need to do a Google search or a Twitter search or whatever, and you'll find hundreds and hundreds of stories of people having bad experiences.
Especially with open, like, I mean, I mean, Liquid Web's not bad, but it's not great anymore, right? Like, and I think I was going to Cloudways as soon as it was kind of good, and then it got worse, right? Like, so, and I've just seen this trend over and over and over in these hosting platforms as they grow. They're not prepared for the support. So I think we are, like, even when we were at IO Zoom, the support was really, really great, right? And then it got worse. Same with WP Oven. When I was there, it got worse. And I can say this about 40 different platforms because I've tested all of them with some of these people. But, I think Liquid Web has a really good platform in regards to support. It's not as good as it used to be, but it's still pretty good. It's better than, calling GoDaddy and talking to somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about. Yeah. And then you have to move up 4 levels to finally get somebody that you understands what WordPress is, right? No slam on GoDaddy, but that's the real experience there.
They're
right?
famous for that also. Everyone if you've been online for 6 months, you'll know these stories about GoDaddy.
Exactly. Well, great. I think we'll wrap it there. We have a couple other videos we're actually going to shoot today as well. But, we're going to talk. That's what, we talked about what's wrong with managed WordPress hosting providers. Please comment of what else you see and what other things. I'm sure we can all come together on all the things that we don't like about hosting providers, right? But, we hope we're going to change that with this platform and with our steady support. And that's what we hope to do. So I'm Michael. He's Abdul. Thanks for being a part of it today.
Thank you.
And we'll talk to you next time.